Thank you for joining us today. And in this video, we are going to talk about unit circle. Let's jump right in. So, as I said in the previous video, that for us to take the example, we need to look at the unit circle. We need to look at the unit circle because it's very important to know the unit circle for you to if I ask you what is sine of 0, if I ask you what is sine of 30, cos 45, you should be able to have it off head to give it out, right? So now this is the unit circle, and you know one thing, how I was able to understand the unit circle was like, unit circle has four quadrants, right? It had four quadrants: the first quadrant, the second quadrant, the third quadrant, and then the fourth quadrant. But what you need to know is, in the first quadrant, all the trig functions are positive. So let me do all plus, right? They are all positive. But when I move to the second quadrant, it's only sine, which is what? Positive, meaning that cos and tan are what? Negative. The same thing to the third quadrant, only tan, positive, cos and sine are negative. When I get to this sine, only cos, which is positive, meaning that sine and tan is also what? Negative, right? And another thing that you need to learn is the coordinates are of the form cosine and what? Sine, meaning that the first coordinate here is cos and the second coordinate here is for what? Sine. So all the coordinates here, as you can see, the first coordinates are for what? They are for cos, and then the last coordinates are also for what? Sine. Now, when you are done with that, now we are just going to learn the first quadrant and we are done. Somebody will ask me, what about the second, the third, and the fourth? The second and the third and the fourth quadrant are bonus. Yes. If we're able to learn the first quadrant, the rest from here up to here are bonus, right? So it's like buying something and giving you cash back. So we just buy this portion, and these are all cash back. What a business. It's very nice. So the idea is that we are just going to learn the first quadrant, and then now I will show you the procedure how to generate the rest, right? So now let's look at the first quadrant. You see this line here? This line here is at 0. So you can see that we have 0 and we have 0 here. Now this here is like, it's in the form of degrees, right? And this is in the form of what? Radian, right? So 0 degrees, 0 radian, right? So now what happens here? When I'm on this side, remember this is cos and sine. So when I'm at this side, I'm talking about cos of what? 0. So what is cos of 0? Comma, what is sine of 0? So cos of 0, we can see that it is what? 1. Cos of 0 is 1. And then sine of 0 is what? 0. That's the first thing that you need to know. And when we are talking about the sine and cos graph, you will see that sine of 0 is 0 and cos of 0 is 1 on the graph. You can see it clearly. So on the first line, I have it in mind that cos of 0 is 1, sine of 0 is 1. Now I move up a little bit in an angle of 30 degrees, right? So 30 degrees can be converted to radian as pi on 6. How can I do that? Let's go through quick. Now we assume that 180 degrees is the same as pi, like in the form of that. So now if I have 30, then I can convert 30 to what? Radian, which will be in the form of this. So let's assume that I have 30. Then I don't know this guy. I don't know how I'm going to write as this. So let's assume that I say this guy here is A. Then we do cross multiplication. This one will multiply this. This one will multiply this. So I'm going to have 180A is equal to 30 pi, right? Then I need to make A the subject by dividing through by 180, dividing through by 180, right? So what will be A? A is going to be, 180 will cancel 180, which will be A. Then 0 will cancel 0. Now 3 goes to 18 how many times? 6, which will give us the pi on 6, which is right here, right? So you can convert all of them. Just know the conversion, and you'll be able to convert all of them. So when I move 30 degrees, the only thing that I need to do is I need to know that with 30, I have root. I have with 30, I have root 3 divided by 2, comma, then I have 1 over 2. So this is what you need to learn. That's why I'm saying that keep this in your mind. Like make sure you remember them, right? So remember these portions, right? So if you remember this portion, then now what is sine of 30? Sine of 30 is sine of 30 is 1 over 2, and cos of 30 is root 3 on 2. Now what is when I move 45, then cos of 45 is root 2 on 2, and then sine 2 is the same thing, root 2 on 2. Then what is 60? When I move 60, actually this and this interchange, we are going to change them. Why? Because it's like when I move 60, here is 30, and when I move here, it's like 30, right? So it swaps the order, right? So this comes here and this goes here. So this is for cos and this is for what? Sine, right? And you see that this and this are the same because from here to here is 45 and from here to here to is 45. So they are in the symmetric position. And then what is at this side? At this side here is 0 and 1. Now what are we learning from here? We are learning that the first quadrant, all of them are positive. So we can see that positive, 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 positive. Wow. We are going to make sure we are going to pick the same thing here to the next quadrant, but we are going to apply the signs. That is all. And no. That is all, right? We are just going to, apply the signs, right? So now let's get to. Now I'll start by going this way, and that way, right? Or let me go to the second quadrant first. Now with the second quadrant, we can see that, look at this line here, the one with 30 here. It goes with this. So it means that I'm going to pick the whole this to this side. So I'm going to have root 3 divided by 2 and 1 over 2. Now remember, the first coordinate is for cos. The second coordinate is for sine. But remember, in the second quadrant, what happens? It's only sine which is positive. It means that here cos is negative. So it means that we need to make sure that the value or the coordinate for cos is with negative. So I just pick the same thing here. I just grab this and replace it here. But the only thing that is happening here is that cos is negative. So I'm just negating the cos component. That's all. Now, how can I find this value here? Now, this value here, remember, this is 180, right? So when I move 30, what will be left? It means that I want to subtract 30 from what? 180, which is like I have 30 here. So here is going to be like 150. And I can convert the 150 to what? Radian, which you can try. So you can try and put it in the comment chat using the idea of this. So if you have 180 is equal to pi, then you have 150 here, and then you find for A, which will give you this. Then I'll pick the one with 45, which is also going with this one, right? So I'll pick the same thing here and come and replace it here. But the only thing that is also going to change is the cos coordinate should be negative, because in the second quadrant, cos is negative. Then I'll pick this and also bring it here. Same thing. When I'm bringing it, the cos component should be negative. That's all, right? Now, the last thing that I need to convert is I need to pick this guy here and put it here, because it's also on the line. And here, the cos component should be negative. Very nice, right? So that is the idea. Now, how can you figure out this value here? So this value here is going with 45, right? So like 45 minus 180, then you put it here. Then here is like 60 minus 180, and you put it here. Same thing, right? Now let's come to the third quadrant, where here, since we are dealing with coordinate of cos and sine, right? In the third quadrant, they are all negative. So in the third quadrant, this guy, I'll pick this component and bring it here, but all of them will be negative. I'll pick this component and bring it right here. All of them will be negative, right? And I pick this component and bring it also here. All of them are going to be negative. So this one is going to be negative root of 3 divided by 2, 1 over 2. This one will be, this one too will be negative. So negative root of 2, negative root of 2. Then this one is going to be negative 1 over 2 root of 3 over 2, also negative. So that is the idea with picking them. Then the next thing that I need to do is I can even look at this one and also take this and place it here, right? Take this and place it here. Take this one too and place it here. But the only thing here is that in the fourth quadrant, cos is what? Positive. So all the cos components are going to be positive, but the sine component is going to be what? Negative. The same thing that you are going to do. So bring them. If I want to use this guy, then at 60, at 30, I have it here, right? 45 and at 60. So bring the same component, right? Component, and just interchange the sign. So this is the idea of the unit circle. I learned the first quadrant, and then the other quadrants becomes what? Bonus. To try to go them step by step to grab it. Maybe you will grab it in even in different perspective, which is very more simpler than mine, right? Then maybe you can teach your friend. Maybe if your friend was not able to understand it, you can go to class and teach, because the more you teach, the more you understand the concept, right? All right. Thank you for joining us.